Digital files are very fragile. I have seen so many cases of accidental deletions and also drive failures where I was sometimes able to recover the files, sometimes I simply was not, that we have to talk about this aspect of digitization and going paperless. In this video, I'm going to cover 4 aspects of this problem space, but I want you not to get discouraged by this. So please, let's continue your journey on going paperless and doing your digitization practices. This is just a wake-up call and also kind of to provide you with some focus in these 4 areas. So here they are. Here are the key main aspects of going fully digital, keeping in mind that these are areas where you have to put some focus on. Number 1, very obvious one, more reliance on technology. Number 2, what we call the problem of digital preservation and what it brings to the table. Number 3 is maybe an easy, lightweight one. It's called tech savviness. So you have to educate your family members. We'll cover this in more detail. And number 4 is a very important one, digital security. So let's get into these one by one. More reliance on technology, maybe the most obvious one of the 4. All of a sudden, when you digitize your documents, you no longer worry about the whereabouts of your physical copies, of your paper copies, but you start worrying about, where my files are in case of a power outage. I lose access to them. So continuously thinking about how to back up, where your backups are they synchronized, is one aspect of this digital life. Now, as an action item to solve this problem, there's a very classic, maybe even old approach that digital photographers follow. This is the 3-2-1 rule. Very basically, what it means is you have to keep 3 copies of every single file you create digitally in 2 formats, which in our case, in a digital document case, it could be a PDF file and a simple image, a photo of the document. And number 1 means that out of these 3 copies, try to keep one off-site, which means geographically far away from where you live. Now, this last one is probably already solved if you upload your files to the cloud in 2 ways. One is that the cloud is a data center probably far away from where you live. So that's number 1. And behind the scenes, cloud providers also replicate the files and kind of copying them across multiple data centers for the very reason of avoiding losing these digital copies, these digital files. So kind of this aspect is probably solved already. But these 3 copies in 2 formats and 1 off-site is a very good rule of backing up your files. So this is number 1. Number 2 is a very interesting problem domain of digital preservation. If you think about it, over time, technology evolves. So if you want to keep your files available and accessible for a long period of time, for years or even for decades, you have to follow the evolving technological landscape. Just imagine a very classic example. A couple of decades ago, we used to have floppy disks, very fragile pieces of kit, keeping your precious digital files on them. As soon as hard drives became available and cheaper, then people started copying them across to hard drives. Okay, and then optical drives came along, DVDs, CDs, so people started saving them. By the way, it is still considered a very good way of preserving your documents for a long period of time. So they have proven to be a good format in this case. But then solid state drives arrived and they became cheaper and cheaper, and although not fully proven how long they can preserve data, they are more reliable and more stable, it seems, so far. So then people again started copying them across. So this continuous copying of files is one aspect of digital preservation. The other one is all about the various formats, because it's not just the hardware technology that evolves, but also the software and the various file formats evolve over time. This is less of a worry, although there are aspects of this digital world which you have to follow up on. Maybe it's even worth dedicating one more video on this. Next one is tech savviness, which is the problem of if you are the only one in your family who does this digitization exercise and you know where your files are, then that's maybe not the best approach. You have to educate, you have to share this knowledge, you have to educate your family, your kids, at least on the aspect of where these files are, how to search for them, and what is the easiest way to find these files. Maybe the digitization part relies on your presence, but everything else, this tech savviness, this raising this level of this digital readiness and this knowledge is an important factor. And last one, number 4, is digital security. In our case, in this simple case of going paperless, just imagine that most of your documents very likely have your physical address printed on them. So you definitely don't want to expose it publicly. You don't want it to get leaked onto the internet. So you have to keep your files in a secure place. There are multiple ways of doing this. 2 very obvious. One, if you are super tech savvy and you really want to keep security as your highest priority, then you have to encrypt your files before uploading them to the cloud, before backing them up. So an encrypted copy is better than a non-encrypted copy. But for those of you who don't want to spend this time and effort on security, but still thinks it's an important factor, the very basic level of digital security is to keep unique and strong passwords and to use multi-factor authentication. If you don't know what this last thing is, there are many videos on this, so please search YouTube for this topic. It is becoming a de facto standard now for all cloud providers to offer you this option to not just use a unique and strong password, but to also use a secondary factor of authentication, some sort of a biometrics or some sort of a knowledge-based solution. So these are the 4 aspects. Again, please don't get discouraged by them, just to keep in mind that you have to tackle these 4. So there is the more reliance on technology, there is the digital preservation, you have to educate your family, this is the tech savviness, and you have to keep your files secure, this is the digital security part. So thanks for watching, hope this was useful, and let's carry on this journey of going paperless and going fully digital. I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.